Well, welcome back to another episode of Freedom Formula. Today, I'm happy to have a guest where I actually got to be a guest on his podcast and spend some time with him. So, Chris, appreciate the time. Again, appreciate you having me on in your world. And, thanks for being here, man. Just tell the crowd who you are, what you do, a little bit about you. And, ultimately, I would say kind of a quick, short version of what got you here today.
Absolutely, Steve. Thanks for having me. And likewise, great conversation last time. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Chris. I started a wedding DJ business about 11 years ago. I didn't expect to get into business, but I always had an entrepreneurial itch, seeing opportunities or improving the businesses that I was an employee of, just finding ways to improve. And that suddenly turned into an award winning wedding DJ business with over 10 DJs who work with us. I went back to school for marketing because there was a great opportunity to get a grant to go back. So I finished my degree in marketing. COVID happened. That's when I made a transition and pivot to focus more on marketing. And now that weddings are back, we're doing both. So I'm running both businesses, helping other businesses now with marketing, tech, and automation and AI stuff. So it's kind of just a nice plethora of stuff that is just a culmination of the years of experience. And that's what I'm kind of bringing to the table now. And that's
I
what I'm
love it.
doing.
Well, AI, we're definitely going to break that down a little bit here because it's just a hot topic for today and really the past 2 years, a little bit over. And I just think it doesn't feel as new anymore, but people still have no idea how to leverage it and use it. And if you don't
Mhm.
figure that out sooner than later, you're gonna get left behind. Like it opens up so many more doors and it makes things so much more quick. It just there's opportunity there. So we're gonna jam on that. But before we get into that piece of it, you got two businesses. You're probably spending a lot of time in the business. I'm gonna go right for it. Like, how do you keep yourself, your health, like all those things priority? And people listening, people watching to this, they probably struggle to balance somewhere in their life because it's, hey, let's go, let's win this thing, let's win this game, but they forget about themselves sometimes. So, how do you do it? What's one big takeaway that somebody listening can really kind of take away for themselves?
Absolutely. And just so everyone knows, I struggle with that as well, both on the health side, the wealth, relationships. All of these can be affected while you're running a business, but they can also be affected while you have full time employment somewhere. So this was back in 2014, where I was working full time for a nonprofit. I was working for the volunteer department, doing some great work. I loved the work. The people were amazing, but that type of lifestyle, just the work, being on call, the 40 hours plus, it didn't fit for me. I gained a lot of weight. I wasn't taking care of my health. And that was around the time that I started the DJ business. So I realized that in order to kind of take care of myself, I couldn't be okay with just working 40 hours a week and putting my time and effort into something that I couldn't receive a benefit from. It was always like you always had to go back to school to get a degree. We could give you the job and the responsibilities, but not the pay and the title. So I was like, man, I just want something to be more in my control and my favor. So that was kind of me finding that balance. So I've struggled with it, but making the time, what you can do is work with mentors and other business people just to see what they're doing. You'll find that the world isn't so lonely. Once you start speaking with other entrepreneurs, you'll realize, okay, they have similar feelings of anxiousness or just dread or a lot of happiness, this roller coaster of emotions through this journey. So it's definitely tough finding the balance. I've gone up and down, taking care of my health and my wealth and relationships. But if you can put systems in place, the team or software in place to help you run your business, you're going to have a lot more time for yourself. I find a lot of business owners are struggling with just like busy work. Like they're doing stuff, they're constantly busy, but they're not
Yeah.
moving the needle and they're not as productive. So it's trying to be as productive as you can in that time frame and not feeling guilty about the time that you take off, because business owners, we make short-term sacrifices for long-term gains. You and I talked a little bit earlier. We work hard during the winter months so we can enjoy some of the summer months. So that's just for me, but I don't know if that's similar to your take or how you kind of handle your health, wealth, and relationships too.
Yeah, and thinking health specifically, we all have seasons, right? Just like we literally have seasons. And for me, wintertime, yeah, there's those like I'm gonna see where burnout is. Where's that line? I'm gonna drive. I know my vacation. Like I don't know that there's ever a point in time where I don't know when my next vacation is. So I always have that like that goal line that I'm racing to, and I'm gonna push to get to that spot. The summer is loosely a a looser time for me, like enjoy the beach, and my family and I, we have an RV, so we'll go away for a couple weeks on there, and I'll still work, but I'm certainly not doing 10, 12-hour days at all during that. So I know those seasons for me, those times where I have to push or I get to push, and then I also know when I get to pull back. From health specifically, it's the consistency. And to make it consistent, my alarm goes off at 5:15 in the morning. So if I sleep that late, my alarm's waking me up, and the first thing I do is I get up, I do my morning routine, I'm at the gym by 5:45, and I'm usually home by 7. So it just, before the world wakes up and I'm now responsive to people, I had to do my thing and I take those 2 hours. Otherwise, start getting messages like 6:30, 6:45, and you just start getting distracted. You start getting pulled into conversations. You start reading your emails, and it's hard to kind of go back to that. Yeah, let me go to the gym and do my thing because now I can pay attention. Like I am not a workout in the afternoon kind of guy because there's work to get done. Like I don't step away very well. So that's my thing is I had to make the time for it in the morning or it was never going to work.
Absolutely. And finding the times where you will be motivated. Some people like, more complex projects to start, or they like that at the end of the day. But I think just listening to yourself and your body, and I think that point highlights just the habits that you formed. Hey, this is something I'm going to stick with, be consistent with it. It's kind of like for business and our health too. If we don't make time on our calendar, it's probably not going to get done. It's going to be on the back burner. It's not going to be at the front of our mind. So it's going to get lost in the mix. So yeah, building those habits early on, sticking with them, can definitely make things easier. Just for motivation as you get further along and potentially hit a roadblock along the way
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. 100%. So on the finance side of things, I've been intrigued by the idea of money and wealth and all that things since all that stuff mattered. And I would say 15 years ago, I started to learn a little bit, but it's really been like the past 2 years that I've come to realize like I know nothing about money, and maybe nothing is extreme, but even for example, you can switch. I met a gentleman and he owns this company and talks about moving away from a traditional mortgage over to a simple interest loan line of credit against your house, where you can make basically the same dollar mortgage payments, and assuming you still had 30 years left on your mortgage and a lot of assumptions there, um, you would pay the whole thing off in somewhere on average like 7 to 11 years versus 30 years without spending an extra dollar any month. And I'm just like, well, how's that possible? It makes no sense. And like, start to learn different concepts of, interest rates versus the rate of interest and things like that. So now it's just this deep dive world of like, there's so much I don't know about money that can just help me achieve my goals. So, like, I'm curious, what are you spending some time learning when it comes to money? What are you thinking that's valuable at this point in time? And it almost always comes down to like, hey, this is the rabbit hole I enjoy. It may not be the most efficient, the most effective, or the biggest, but it's the thing that's going to help you the most because you care about it.
Yes, absolutely. And similar for your instance, it's like we're always learning about new processes or things that can help us save time, make more money. And that's just another tool. Money in itself is just another tool in our toolbox. So for business owners, a lot of the times when we're first starting out, we have more time than money, and we're exchanging our time to wear all the hats that we need to in our business. When you get a little bit older and more experienced in your business, or you have a decent cash flow, then you start looking money a little bit differently. It becomes more of a tool, and now this tool can be something that can be reinvested to create more wealth. So now instead of you as a person and your time creating money, you use your money to create more money, which is
Oh yeah.
crazy, right? But these are the things that we learn about, either investing, whether it's in stocks or real estate, investing in other businesses, investing in ourselves, or even just simple financial practices that can kind of give us a leg up. So for people, I think it's the balance between what do you value more, your time or your wealth, and find your balance within that. Because for us, we'll work really hard to get a bunch of stuff done so we can have more time later, but we're willing to put in that sacrifice. But later on, we can start making our money work for us, so we can hire the team members that allow us to scale a little bit further or fulfill our services and products, and then just investing. So it's like, do you find a good investment elsewhere? Would that money serve you better in this capacity, or just sitting there in a savings account? So it's up to you to use your money how you want, use your time how you want. You can be strategic with your time and your money. to find that balance. But yeah, I'm always learning new ways to leverage assets, leverage money, leverage technology. That's why I'm always like, I'm a lifelong learner. I've never stopped learning because there's always something new that we're going to learn from each other, and we can apply it to our life and our business. That makes things just a whole lot easier for you. And it feels weird learning that information now at the age that we are. Like, shouldn't have that been taught earlier? Or who's
You,
keeping these secrets from
you
us?
would
Like,
think at like 15,
yeah,
your economics teacher would be like, hey, here's a great way to think about money because all of you all are sitting here thinking about it this way. Our minds would have been blown and we would be so much better for it. But not one. It was here's, debits and credits and put your money in your 401k because compounding interest helps. And like, yeah, it does, but there's other things out there to understand.
yes, and I don't think that it's that they're not willing to tell us, but I feel like they don't know
Correct.
either. Otherwise, they would have. And they're like, I would scream it from the rooftops. Have you heard about this opportunity? Like, this is so cool. Have you thought
Yeah.
about this?
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, like I say the mortgage thing, for example, and this gentleman, so I was actually I spent the day with him and his team at his office and just learning about the business and helping them just brainstorm on marketing and stuff. I'm like, oh, what's the biggest,
Hmm.
obstacle that people give you? And they're like, oh, they don't believe it'll actually work. And I'm like, I didn't even think that that was like one of the possibilities. Like they charge $10,000 for this course, but if you think about it, they can literally save you 20-ish years on a mortgage that you're paying, and they can, if you have a $500,000 home, save you 250 $300,000 as well. So $10,000 to save 300K in 20 years, really good value. And it didn't even occur to me that a lot of people who come in are like, "Oh, I don't believe that this is real." I'm like, yeah, like just but to me, I
Yes.
saw the math. I'm like, holy crap, I'm dumb. I need to be better. So it's intriguing how every single thing you're selling, even if it's super valuable knowledge, you just have that like, no, that's not real. That's not possible.
There will always be some skepticism, resistance, or pushback, and that's the specific spin that we kind of bring in with marketing. We ask those questions that kind of uncover that information, even if it's not obvious to us. We kind of learn those things along the way, but these obstacles and friction points that people come into, yeah, it's not an education piece, but they just don't believe it to be true. So there needs to be some sort of different messaging or way to communicate that to them to make them believe, because that will be that next sticking point that will prevent them from moving forward with the sale. So, does it require? Do you need a lower cost offer, like a short PDF template to prove that it works, and then take them, or is it a demo thing? But that'll be something you can find out and kind of play with as you learn more about them. But just a super interesting opportunity and an issue that they're dealing with. It's true. There's a healthy amount of skepticism
Oh
out
yeah,
there.
I mean, especially
Buyers.
in today's world where everybody's been so used to direct response marketing, and how many things have people bought that, I mean, majority they didn't even try to leverage, but they tried to try use some of it and it just didn't work for them because they got taken by the marketing, and now people are just hyper aware of the world that's going on around them. So, but
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people need to have some skepticism. Buyers are more educated now than they were before, which is great. And I think that helps from the buyer's client side too, is for us as marketers not to overinflate our own promises or guarantees, just being real and authentic within our
yep,
messaging. Of course, there's ways we're trying to spin things in a certain way to deliver a communication piece. But overall, I feel like, the more upfront and transparent you are, the better that is as a business for a long term. So yeah, you wouldn't find me doing like these quick drop shipping sales to try and get a quick buck, and no scams. It's all about more longer term stuff. But these are all opportunities that people are trying because they
yeah,
want money. They know money is the tool that will solve a lot of their problems, and that's why people are so interested in these money making opportunities, buying a course, learning real estate, something to that effect to better themselves. So I give them credit for trying, and it just depends if that end result, like that product, is going to deliver on its
yeah,
value or
no,
not.
100%. So in today's world, especially, behind computer screens and all that stuff, relationships are always a challenging thing, especially, unless you work in an office and whatnot, and you're working with your team, which is not as prevalent nowadays. There is some return to offices going on, but let's face it, entrepreneurship as a whole, there's a fun world behind a computer. So how do you manage kind of relationships and still staying connected and finding time to spend with family, just with friends and just going and taking that time off and whatnot? Because a lot of leaders, a lot of business owners end up feeling guilty. I can't take the time off and stuff like that, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing to keep in mind is just the post-COVID era of us kind of getting out of this post-traumatic event that happened to us, and now we're unsure of how to acclimate back into it. For a lot of business owners and people out there, you can find a nice blend between in-person and digital communication to help nurture and build those relationships. So for me, during the winter, I don't like to go outside. We're in the Midwest, so we get dumped on with snow. It's super cold. It's windy. That's not very fun for me. So I like to nurture those relationships through Zoom meetings like this, through regular communication, phone, text, email. For a lot of our friend relationships, instead of going out and doing something, we hop into a Discord server and maybe pull up a video to watch together, or we'll even play some games together. So there's ways you can kind of find that blend of doing some digital online stuff and still do some in-person stuff. So for in-person stuff for me, I do some networking events that are in person, and then just everyday life. So when I go to the gym or I go to the grocery store or I'm going to grab some gasoline, sometimes there's opportunities to meet and network with people. Just say hi, how you doing? I feel like we kind of lost some of that within the last 4 years, just kind of being a little more open and friendly. And I don't think the political landscape and propaganda that exists out there is really helping the situation at all. So I feel like the more one-on-one real relationship building moments that we have together, I think we're going to learn something from each other and realize we're not we're not what the news says that people are, or it's not as divided as it seems. I feel like I find less political people one on one. They can have more objective conversations, and they're not far left, far right. They just look at a situation and say, let's break it down,
Yeah,
let's look at it, and
it's
let's be friends afterwards. And I'm like, wow, those are the people I
it's weird.
like.
You watch the news and it's like that person is a diehard Trumper or that person is a diehard Democrat. And then I'm like, I haven't met one of those people in the wild yet. Like, maybe I'm hanging
Yes.
out in the wrong spots, but I just haven't met them yet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, are these some fictitious characters that they create just to create a perception, or are there just a few outliers and they present that as if it is a blanket statement for the entire, side of either spectrum? But yeah, you can kind of see just the issues taking place, no matter your thoughts on the policies themselves. I think the more objective you can be for any situation, lets us stop being so reactionary and emotional to certain situations. For any headline in the news, there could be something that a previous president has done or similar to that either was or wasn't given so much light. So again, we just need to be mindful that fear is a tool that is being used to keep our minds active towards these news channels. So the more engagement, the more hate, the more fear that they're putting out, the more we engage. So the less we interact with that, have real conversations with real people, we're not feeding into the algorithm, and we can have more real conversations instead of just assuming or pretending that we know what the other person thinks or feels
Yeah,
about something.
no, absolutely true. It's just, I don't know. My favorite thing to do in person is be like, so who'd you vote for? But every single one of those people can actually have that conversation. And the crazy thing is, whether you voted the same as I did or different than me, if we break down the specific things and reasons, like 95% of the reasons we agree on either way, and they sit on both sides. It's like there's one major cornerstone thing where it's like, well, I see it this way, that's why I voted that way. And it's like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I get that. And you know what, but it's like, I don't think people should have to endure that, and I don't think that's real. Like, it's freaking weird. Like, all us humans are still kind of aligned unless you watch the TV.
Yes, exactly. 95% of those things we find that common ground, but it's the one few things that just really divide us. And I think that's preventing some progress and kind of feeding into just the breakdown of relationships that we've had with friends and
Yeah,
family.
for sure. So what are you working on these days with AI? AI is a very prevalent thing in my day to day. I use it a lot of different applications. Where one of my clients were actually taking AI and it's now going to be grading app submissions for calls booked and automatically like doing some fun stuff on the back end and directing people. Like, a lot of cool stuff, but like What are you working on these days?
Yeah, AI is exciting, and we've seen quite a change in the evolution. I think the benchmark back then with AI was Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it's gotten way better now. But the access to tools and the things that both ChatGPT, LLMs, and these other AI tools can do is just now incredible. What we're working on is building AI employees. Specifically, right now, we're helping with some nonprofits. So we're kind of rethinking and reimagining what the volunteer and donor relationship looks like and how AI can help benefit that. So basically, we have these AIs that are able to collect and capture lead information, pre-qualify either volunteers or donors, recommend the right program for them, and kind of walk them through the entire stages of the buyer's journey. So it's just a great tool that we're using to help capture and nurture leads and then turn them into donors or clients. So we're kind of building AI. We're using AI. I'll be speaking at a virtual summit April 16th on technology and AI for nonprofits. So I kind of showed everything that I did on a daily basis. Here's how I use AI. Here's some of the prompts that I use. So that way, a lot of these nonprofits and other businesses can start to benefit from all the cool features and benefits of AI. There's no shortage of AI tools. It's being incorporated into almost everything. But as long as you're using it to fit the way that your business feels right. So one person might like AI as a social media copywriting tool. Some people feel like that's not my brand voice and that just doesn't fit with me, but I can help use it to compile some spreadsheets. So however you want to use AI is up to you, but I agree that it's giving smaller business owners, solopreneurs access to similar tools and resources that these big box companies only had access to. So now it's leveling the playing field a little bit more. So I hope a lot of other businesses can at least catch up to where AI is now and where it could be going, because it's definitely a game changer for a lot of businesses and people.
Yeah, I find, and even one conversation I get to have with my clients a lot is, they're so resistant to certain applications of AI, which I understand, right? And if you ask a
Mhm.
general question to the free version of Chat GPT about a social media post, it's going to sound absolutely nothing like you. I completely agree with that. But if you do have the paid for version that has memory and it can continue to update things and you actually train it, because that's where the work comes from, right? Like, hey, give me a thing. Okay, cool, you take the thing. You then rewrite the thing. Here's what I actually wrote. Here's my version of this. Please update your records to reflect some of the changes that I did make moving forward. And you do that for a month straight, that AI chat is going to be really good at being you. Um, you're going to have to go back and continue to keep it within its boundaries and stuff like that. But it's a $20 or $30 a month employee that can do whatever you want it to do. And with a little bit of massaging to get it there, can do some pretty cool things. So
Absolutely.
it's fun. And I mean, it's a great tool, even from a marketing perspective, because so many people, and a lot of my clients tend to be people who have other clients of theirs coming in. So what we'll typically do is like, let's go build a GPT, a custom GPT, and incorporate that and push like a Notion doc or you have a G doc together of here's your prompts, here's this, here's that, and go leverage this thing. Their speed to success and value is now so quick that they're getting returns on their investment in hours and days instead of weeks and months, which is a great spot to be in for people coming in and spending money.
Yes, that is beautiful. And just what you described with like an AI employee, how you need to massage and train it, treat it like you would any other employee. There's usually a 90-day sort of review period where you're training them and you don't expect much from them, but you need to consistently train and correct to keep them on mission, on brand, so you can get the end result that you're looking for. And just like you said, both the prompting and providing an example output, show what a blog would look like or a social media post, so that way it can better mimic your style and your brand voice. But yeah, it's definitely a cool tool in the arsenal here. It's expanding to a lot of other businesses. So yeah, it's something amazing. I'm looking forward to what the future is going to hold for AI. It's hard to imagine what I would do without it being
I,
using it for the
I'd
last
be
two to
so
3 years.
lost. Steve, go get work done. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry.
I know, right? And I'm hearing from other people that they feel like they almost need an AI detox sometimes, where they're like, I feel like my ability to think for myself is being affected. So they did like an AI cleanse and said I didn't use ChatGPT for a week. So every time they went to like go search, oh, what should I do? Oh yeah, I have to think about that. But yeah, I think it kind of shows just the brain power and manpower that went into the brainstorming, the creative task, deciding. You can literally brain dump your ideas into a custom chat GPT, and it'll give you an overview and action steps for you. It's like, wow, it's a great therapist, it's a great coach, it's a great copywriter. It can be all these things, and it's just getting better and better
Yeah,
each
my
day.
my version of not using ChatGPT is using Grok or using Claude. So
Like one AI for the
I have a
other.
platform specific kind of like break. I'm not taking a break from all of AI though.
No, you
So
can't.
I've built some of my AI bots that I'll plug into like my Slack channels and everything, bookmark them, where the team can go in and actually like, you know, hey, ask some basic questions and where can I find these things? And it's a it's a nice resource for people to refer to quickly instead of having to fully engage in deep conversations and spend time finding stuff. Like I that gets used multiple times a day at this point. I can't imagine not having that where now myself, my admin, or somebody's got to actually go in and actually answer all those things.
Right. It's like a knowledge database at our fingertips. It's a more advanced internet in itself that we have access to now. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
So you do weddings, you do advertising. A lot of my world does play in that advertising thing. Like, what are you seeing today in the advertising landscape that's maybe giving you a bit of an edge? And I think I say that in the vein of I think marketers are they're no longer a dime a dozen because they're realizing that it's actually not that easy anymore because the one little tactic that they had that was working isn't working anymore. So tactics are great, but if you don't understand the underlying principle or strategy behind them and you don't know how to necessarily alter it or change it for a different use case, you become kind of this one trick pony that eventually should just go away. So like what are you seeing today? What are you doing today? What things are you leaning on? I get it's all a little bit different here and there. But principally speaking, tactically speaking, what are you seeing?
Absolutely. So, at a foundational level, I'm seeing still consumers are more skeptical and they want more education around the product or service that they're about to purchase. So, they're doing a lot of research behind that. So, that still remains true. I would say that there's been a change with cold email, where cold email used to be somewhat effective back in the day, better 5, 10 years ago. But the landscape is changing. And I even think the same for some social media channels or your outreach. And I agree, there were tons of people who got into the marketing game simply to be a social media advertising specialist. They would get you leads for their company. Now, just big picture as a whole, you see these people who are either less experienced, no experienced, or a different point in their life where they're just able to hop in and provide value to these businesses. They get results and give them an end result. So I'm like, okay, this is great. They're not hurting anyone here. But yes, the trend's changing with social media changing their algorithms, with it becoming more cost inefficient to scale your advertising. It's just harder to get found and get in front of the right people. So I'm seeing a shift more towards organic search results, more organic marketing. And with that said, SEO feeding into AI LLMs. So people are now using ChatGPT in replacement of Google search. So what does that do for SEO results, right? It usually takes that down. But if you have a good online presence in general, you should be able to show up in most of these AI large language learning models, that you shouldn't have to worry about that too much. But I'm starting to see that shift from the one trick ponies of, we help with Facebook ads, we do this. Businesses typically need a bit more. And if you can be that resource for them, then you'll have a higher lifetime value for your client, for yourself, and then you're able to do more work. So yeah, I think businesses, marketing agencies, businesses as a whole will need to be a bit more adaptable, offer more services as opposed to niching down into one specific thing. There's pros and cons to everything, but I find a benefit to be full service to outweigh the cons of just being a specialist in one
Yeah.
category.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well, and it's that trust factor like nowadays where people are just they've been burned. They're trying to find more information and understand, and yeah, like my new go to Google is to ask chat like, "Hey, I got a question." So, not everybody. People still go to Google. I'm sure there's still people that go to like Yahoo and Bing, maybe. But either
Mhm.
way,
Surprisingly, Bing is pretty good for B2B right now. Bing, that's another interesting trend right now. Is Bing being higher for that, and a lot of people go for LinkedIn. But yeah, as things become more saturated, it's less effective, and it's just another opportunity for you to stand out more. So I feel like knowing this information, if I were to act upon it, knowing these trends, I'm going to go for more educational focused
Yeah.
content. So, and even some of my lead magnets will lead into that. So I think it would be, I'm going to teach you everything I know about this for a low price. Now you get someone who's interested in learning more about it. They're obviously looking to solve that problem, and now you're getting pre-warmed leads who already paid you into your funnel. So that would be my strategy if I were to take my own
Yeah.
advice.
No, I love that. I love that. Well, Chris, where can people find you, get some more information about you, and just kind of connect if they want to and just want to learn more and either some marketing, wisdom, or even potentially get their wedding DJ'd?
Absolutely. So people can find me online. They can Google my name, Chris Troka, T like in Tom, Roka. Otherwise, my business is focus-biz.com, and I'm also available on LinkedIn
All
as
right,
well.
fantastic. Well, Chris, thank you for the time, man. Great chat as always. Appreciate it. We're 2 for 2 now, so feels like we're gonna have to find a third one at some point in the future.
We'll start a joint podcast, maybe. Hey, I appreciate it,
Sounds
Steve. Thank
good,
you.
man.